Hello everyone, welcome to this video on learning batch class in Apex for Salesforce. In this video, we will cover the basics of batch class in Salesforce, its importance, and how to implement it. A batch class in Salesforce is a class that processes large amounts of data in smaller, manageable chunks, also known as batches. This allows for efficient processing of large data sets without exceeding platform limits. Batch classes can be used for various operations such as mass updates, emails, data migrations, and validations. To implement a batch class, we need to implement the database.batchable interface provided by Salesforce in the Apex class. As we use the interface, we need to implement three methods in Apex class, which are start, execute, and finish. The start method is responsible for providing a query locator that retrieves the records that need to be processed by the batch job. It takes in a database.batchable context object as a parameter and returns a database.queryLocator object. The execute method is responsible for processing the records retrieved by the start method. It takes in a database.batchable context object and a list of S-object records as parameters. It processes the records in the list and can also add any errors or success records to the stateful variables. The finish method is responsible for performing any final actions after the execute method has finished processing all the records. It takes in a database.batchable context object as a parameter and can be used to do an action. Once the batch execution is finished, like sending an email to the administrator with the results of the batch job or call another batch class if required. In batch class, we can set the batch size, which tells how many records to be processed at a time. If you don't set a batch size, it's 200 by default. We can also set a minimum batch size to 1 and a maximum batch size to 2000. We can also use the database.stateful interface in a batch class, which allows for maintaining state across multiple batches, tracking progress, keeping records of processed, failed records, and error handling. This is useful for sending an email with the results of the batch job. Apex allows you to call up to 5 child batch jobs from the finish method in a single transaction, but be mindful of the limits of a single transaction. A parent batch class can call and execute a child batch class immediately after its own completion, allowing for chaining multiple batch classes together to perform complex processing. Additionally, you should be aware that calling multiple batch classes from the finish method can lead to an increase in locked records during processing, which may impact application performance. This is an Apex class named Send Birthday Greeting Email Batch that sends birthday greetings via email to all contacts whose birthday is today. The class implements two interfaces, database.batchable and database.stateful. The class has 3 private instance variables: exception messages, a list of exception messages that will be used to log any errors that occur during the batch execution; contact IDs, a set of contact IDs that will be used to track which contacts the birthday greetings were sent to; admin email, a static final variable that stores the admin email address for the exception email. The class has a constructor method that initializes the exception messages and contact IDs variables. The start method is responsible for returning a query locator that retrieves all contacts whose birthday is today. It returns a database.queryLocator object. The execute method is responsible for sending the birthday greetings via email to the contacts in the current batch. It takes 2 parameters, database.batchable context and a list of contact objects. Inside the method, it creates a list to store the email messages and iterates through the contacts in the current batch. For each contact, it creates a new email message and sets the recipient's email address, the email subject, and the email body. It adds the email message to the list of email messages and adds the contact's ID to the set of contact IDs. Finally, it sends the emails using messaging. Send email. If an exception occurs during the execution, it adds an error message to the exception messages list. The finish method is responsible for sending an email to the administrator to confirm the batch job status and also call another batch if required. It takes a database.batchable context parameter. Inside the method, it checks if there are any exception messages. If there are any, it creates a new messaging. Single email message object for the exception email sets the recipient email address, email subject, and email body and sends the exception email using messaging. Send email. If there are no exception messages, it creates a new messaging. Single email message object for the success email sets the recipient email address, email subject, and email body and sends the success email using messaging. Send email. Finally, if there are any contact IDs, it executes another batch job named update birthday notification batch using database.execute batch. That's all for this video. We hope you found it useful in understanding the basics of batch class in Salesforce. Thank you for watching.